didn't see you there. It's me, well-respected author Gary Cohen. And I was just reading a copy of my latest book, My Sexy Date with Bigfoot. I'm an author, not a videographer. My Sexy Date with Bigfoot. I thought tonight I would read to you one of the stories. There are 10, and I'm going to read to you the one called The Wordsmith. It is England. The year is 1755. Samuel Johnson and a well-dressed man walk through an unremarkable village, down a filthy street, and enter a humble shop. An imposing forge dominates the back wall. A man, Perez, sits near the forge with his feet up on an anvil, reading a book. "I say," said Johnson, "my good man, could you help us? One of our horses seems to have thrown a shoe." "Sorry," said Perez, "I'm afraid I can't help you." "Now see here, Smithy," began the other man, sternly, before Johnson cut him off. "Please, sir, if you could be so kind, I'm very late for a meeting with my publisher," pleaded Johnson. Perez's face lit up. He put down his book and put his feet off the anvil. He leaned forward. "Publisher, you say?" "Yes," said Johnson. "I am writing the Dictionary of the English Language." Perez hopped to his feet. "Really? Well, perhaps I can help you after all." "So you shall shoe the horse?" said Johnson. "Oh, I'm afraid I can't do that," said Perez. "But you are a farrier!" cried Johnson. "Well, it's fair you think me farrier. I assure you I am not," said Perez. "I don't shoe horses. In fact, I eschew horses every chance I get." "I see," said Johnson. "Well, I don't," said the well-dressed man gruffly. "Is he going to shoe the horse or not?" "I don't believe this man is a blacksmith, your grace," said Johnson. "I believe he is something far more rare." Perez doffed his hat with a great flourish. "Raymond V. Perez, wordsmith, lover of language and creator of words, at your service." "Samuel Johnson," said Johnson, touching his hat, "and may I present the Duke of—" "That's ridiculous," huffed the Duke. "If you're not a blacksmith, why do you have an anvil and a forge?" "Well, the forge is nice because it does get damp. Plus, it adds kind of an industrial feel to the whole room," said Perez. "As for the anvil, I am writing a series of exciting children's stories about a fox who's always chasing a cuckoo. Often he will try to drop one of these on the cuckoo's head." Both visitors looked horrified. "I've been thinking I might change the setting to somewhere over in the colonies," said Perez. "In their great Southwest, perhaps." The Duke took out his pocket watch, looked at it, and made a face. "Please, just a moment of your time," said Perez. Johnson could see the desperation in his eyes. "Well, I suppose a moment wouldn't hurt," said Johnson. The Duke glowered at him, but Johnson just shrugged. "Right. You won't be sorry," said Perez. He had a tower of boxes stuffed with cards. He began to move through them. "Don't worry. I'm only going to pitch my very best." Perez looked at his card and then looked Johnson straight in the eye. "Do you have a word that merely sounds like another word, but means something entirely different?" "Yes, homonym," said Johnson. "A word that sounds like another word, but means something completely different. We have that one already." Perez, undeterred, continued. "So I suppose you also have one for a word that means exactly the same thing as another word?" "Of course we do," said the Duke. "It's synonym." "Good," said Perez. "But let's say I asked you what the opposite of synonym was." "That would be antonym," sighed Johnson. "So the antonym of antonym is synonym?" said Perez. "Yes, we know all of this," cried the Duke. "Come along, Johnson." The two men turned to leave. You could see that Johnson was disappointed. "Well, I guess you probably have this then," said Perez casually. "After all, it's just the synonym for synonym." Both men stopped dead in their tracks. They looked at Perez. "Homonym," he said proudly, "with an I." "Poppycock," said the Duke. "I've never heard of that." "It's because I've invented it," said Perez. "Extraordinary," said Johnson. He turned to the Duke. "We must have it." "I don't see why," said the Duke. "You fool," cried Johnson. "Do you not see what he's done? Not only is homonym a synonym for synonym, it's a homonym for homonym," said the Duke. There was silence as it sank in. "We'll take it," said Johnson. He walked forward to shake Perez's hand. Perez took a step back and held the card over his head. "You don't even know what I want for it," said Perez. "Just name your price," said Johnson. He was beside himself. 3 guineas, said Perez. "Done," said Johnson. "Not so fast, Johnson," said the Duke. "I'll give you 15 shillings and not a pence more." "That's crediculous," said Perez, which means crazy and ridiculous. "I can let that one go for just 1 guinea and 5p. "I think it's a fair price," said Johnson. "It's really like getting 2 words." 25 shillings, countered the Duke. 2 guineas, said Perez, "and I'll throw in cinnamon, with an S, 1 N, and 2 M's. It means a word that sounds sort of like another word, but not exactly. So cinnamon would be a synonym for synonym, and synonym would now be cinnamon for cinnamon," said Johnson, "as well as cinnamon being a homonym for cinnamon," said Perez. "That seems fair," said Johnson, looking at the Duke. "I am royalty, and I will not haggle with this riffraff," raged the Duke. "You should be honored to sell your words to me, you scoundrel." He stepped towards Perez. Perez took a step back and drew a blade. But he did not hold it towards the Duke. Instead, he laid the naked blade against a taut rope tied to the wall that angled up towards the rafters. "Don't take another step, Your Grace," said Perez. He tilted his head up. The Duke realized that suspended above his head was a second anvil. A flick of Perez's wrist, and the anvil would come crashing down on his head. Johnson could picture in his head the fox dropping the anvil on the cuckoo. I bet those would be exciting stories, he thought. "We're done here," said Perez gravely. He turned his gaze towards the roaring forge. Holding the card between his thumb and forefinger, he flicked it into the fire. Johnson stared at the Duke. "What have you done?" he cried. "This man is a fool," said the Duke, "and his name will be lost to history." Johnson and the Duke turned and headed towards the door. "And what, pray tell, is your name, my Grace?" Perez called after him. "I am Randolph Head," he snarled, "the 12th Duke of Southumberland." "I don't think a word exists to describe a Duke Head like you, sir," said Perez, as he scratched down some notes on a fresh card. "Not yet, but it will." I want to thank you for taking the time to enjoy this reading from my new book, My Sexy Date with Bigfoot, written by me, Gary Cohen. Oh, that's how you do it. It's actually backwards. a beautiful cover illustration is by Steven Stahlberg. I'll have a link in the description. Thank you and good night.